today and tomorrow is that piece that connects the first 3 modules to the last one. Because when we're looking at leadership in general, when we look at how to communicate well, when we look at how to manage performance, this is all done with a rapport that you establish with your employees and a positive work environment. And very often organizations will say, we need to work as a team. But what does that really mean? So today and tomorrow, this module is a little bit different. In fact, they're all pretty different. But this one's a little bit different in format, which means I'm going to ask you to participate in some team challenges and some team exercises so that we understand the difference between a group and a team. And by recognition, I'd like to work that into teams by taking a look at how can we redirect behavior so that it still establishes, or it's still motivating. It still maintains a positive work environment. So how do we do that? How do I redirect behavior? You looked at some of this with performance management and coaching. So I'm going to take this just another step further and take a look at the power of positive relationships. Often organizations say, I need you to work as a team, which really means I'd like no conflict, make sure everybody plays nice together and that everybody helps each other, but that's not really what a team is about. A team does that, of course, but a team also has strong communication skills so that it can disagree. They can disagree with a team leader. They can disagree with each other. They can debate, find different ways, be more creative. And so we're going to look at the more proper sense of the word team, or I'd say the more formal sense of team. Yeah. Well, you've already identified some of those key aspects of getting people moving together, but moving forward. And they have to move forward toward that common goal. And of course, when we understand about teams, we hear all the time, oh, team, together, everyone achieves more, right? That's the acronym for team. One of the ways to start that is to you're right, have everyone focused on what needs to be done. And there's that connection. That connection that you, I think, automatically have is a connection that you're seeking to establish as a team leader in a team. And that's why teams are so hard to build. A team that's really and truly effective. Because it starts with something as ill-defined as trust and rapport. Now, do you have to share, the difficulties of this and share personal knowledge? No. But there needs to be some shift from you're just the person I work with to you're the person I'm connected to in this, and that the connection is not that we move around a lot or I'm the youngest of so many children, but the connection is our connection to what we're doing, what we're building, and in the final analysis, the mission of the organization. Now, there are some pretty strict rules with this exercise, and I will enforce them to the letter of the law. W. G. Ask questions. It's a wonderful way to develop rapport, which is to ask more questions than give statements or suggestions. And they don't have to be questions such as, well, what were you thinking? Not those kind of questions.
Under the trust, we had consistency.
Yes, that's another great point, consistency. And what's interesting is when we think we're being consistent, that's not the way other people might see it. Because we know why we're doing what we're doing, but other people don't. So that's where your point of communication really comes in. So the more we communicate with people, the more information we give them, the more whys we let people know about, then I think the more not only rapport but trust that they have, and it's easier for you to be consistent and to appear consistent because people see what you're doing, not only what you're doing rather, but why. Okay, so this group here, what did you have, please? is your personal homework, which I actually may, if I run into you in this organization, know if you did do it or not. I usually say I'll never know if you do it. But if you want to develop rapport And especially for those of you who are leading teams currently, you need to know what motivates each team member, what demotivates them. That's a piece of knowledge you need to have. And not only that, but you need to know if you're right. You're making some guesses, but you need to know if you're right. And how are you going to find that out? How else will you find out?
Ask your staff.
Exactly. You ask them. Right? Wonderful. And you do that in the context of everything else that you said. Right? Because if you don't have that rapport, and you just walk up to someone that you're really disconnected with, and they know that you don't think much of them, which of course as a supervisor you will never give that impression, right? Right. But let's just say you've not developed the rapport, and you walk up to them and say, "So what motivates you?" Excuse me? What are you talking about and why? Right? But that's what it is. You ask and you watch and you take all the time that it takes to establish this rapport and trust. If you do that, then everything else is just a lot easier.
I'll bring it. Yeah.
Would you bring it? Okay, so we're going to look at the mission statement after lunch. Bring it. That would be great. Good. Okay. So it's a group of individuals who work together toward a common goal. Your common goal is to do a good job, success of the company, as defined by the mission statement. Right on. And your goal now as a leader is to make sure that people know that. Not that they have to recite the mission statement every time they walk in the door, but that they know how they're connected to that. That they see the bigger picture. Yeah, that's how to make a goal compelling. Now, not everybody's going to buy into that. Not everybody's going to really care how they're connected to the organization. But most people will. Most people, regardless of what they do in an organization, are doing because they want to do a good job. Each member depends on each other member to achieve the goal. If that is not present, there's no requirement for a team, just a very good, effective group. The team is, when you think of sports teams, that's a great analogy. So the performance of one person, it affects the performance of others. Each shares the responsibility for the team's success or failure. So we succeed together, or we fail together. Now, of course, it's not absolute, but think again. Sports team models, they're still a good example of team where we're connected, and that's the difference between a team and a group. A group is there is no shared common purpose. I do what I do. It is utterly not dependent on what you do. What I do does not affect what you do. And so consequently, there's no need to really talk about team, I suppose. However, you can mobilize a whole group of individuals toward the mission statement. Right? No links among the individuals. Each person has their own agenda, their purpose, their task. We often hear there's no, what's that phrase? No I in team. Or something like that. Depending on how you spell it, caps up, caps down. Yeah, no I in, caps up. Tell me about that. What do you mean?
Well, if you have upper caps on, there's an I in the A.
Oh my goodness! I didn't know that. Okay, so there's no I in team lowercase. If the interconnectedness and dependency is absent, if the focus is on the I and not the we, and hierarchy, chain of command. Well, what I'd like to do is just to round up and finish up this section on teams. I'm going to ask you to choose another card. Let me see. I think I ended over here. And there's card over here.
That's awesome.
What I'd like you to do is turn your card over. Some of you have jacks. Some of you have queens. And kings, yes? Good. All right, so the kings are going to work together. The queens will work together and the jacks will work together. So would you find your like people? And in your book, I'd like you to brainstorm your exercise so we finish off this section. And your exercise is on page 13. What makes an effective team? I'd like you to draw from your own experience would you ask someone to keep track of your answers on flip chart paper and someone to read them out?